Well, I'm sure you all saw this coming. Yes, I saw Obsession, and yes, I did really love it. And this isn't me trying to add fuel to the fire, and, I'm just preaching to the choir at this point. This is me actually, preaching to the said choir, but also explaining why the preach is also warranted, and especially this summer where there's a lot of blockbusters, a movie like Obsession and, to an extent, Backrooms is exactly what we needed. And you know what? Wins go out to the YouTubers this year. There was Iron Lung, which was pretty solid. There's Obsession, that was also equally pretty solid. And now there was also Backrooms. That was equally solid, but I will get to that at a later video. Now, we're here to talk about Obsession, and man, I didn't think this movie was going to be that great, especially since the story is relatively simple. It is just a man that makes a very naive decision, and a simple decision, and it ends up all hell breaks loose. And man, the story that is ultimately told, very rewarding in the end. Now, this isn't me trying to be all jokey here. This is a legitimate review that I highly encourage people to go see this movie. I also encourage people to see it on a date with someone. I will definitely say that. It is very nuanced like that. And it gives a lot. And it's a very thought-provoking movie. Like, it is. The buddy I went to go see this with, we were all chatting. And when I went to go catch up with another buddy of mine that also loves this movie, we couldn't stop talking about it. Just like everything about it that made it very special in our eyes. Like, we like to watch a lot of horror movies, me and this friend of mine. Unfortunately, he's in another state off to school, so he has to go see it on his own time, and same with me. I have to watch these movies on my own time, but we always reconnect and go like, hey, have we seen this? What did we think of this movie? And we had a massive discussion on one of our trips together this summer, and on our way there, we just could not stop talking about just the story that was being told. Yes, it was simple, but it was told in a very, like I said, very nuanced way, very thought-provoking way, and it also gives, more meaning to the phrase, like, loving the idea of a person versus actually being with them on a day-to-day life. And that is a bold move on a movie being released in this day and age. Like, a lot of people, like myself, I thought this was just going to be like your typical Blumhouse horror movie. I went to go see this personally because I was hooked on the very first teaser trailer. Now, those of you who haven't seen the teaser, well, it's very simple, very short, but it hooks you in on the idea of where this story could go. And man, from the moment I sat down, the moment I left that theater, I was hooked. And I love that in a movie. And Indy Navarez, who plays Nikki, knocked it out of the park. I cannot wait to see her in more stuff. Surprisingly, she was in the Superman and Lois TV show, and yeah, she was equally as solid in that. But this easily takes the cake as her best performance to date. Bear, this very lonely guy, admittedly, but man, it is so much about this movie is just all about thinking and the ideas that are being presented. It, also takes us on a journey all the way to the end that is both satisfying and also, like I said, thought-provoking. And it will lead up to discussions. Like, from the moment you guys will leave the theater, you will be discussing it. Also, I just love how weird it can get. This movie is just darkly hilarious. It has some very wonderfully bizarre moments. Also, on top of that, the atmosphere of this movie. That's the other thing I loved about it. It's just the atmosphere of what could happen or what could potentially, like, everything about it is just very suspenseful. It leaves you on the edge of your seat. Like, you are very frightened for anything that could happen to any of these characters. And, thankfully there's some added levity with some darkly comedic moments and some moments that make you go like, what the hell? And just, it is wonderfully bizarre, and it never lets up on I love how, I I just love this movie. I love how it's just getting a bunch of praise wonderfully so, and it's told in such a great way. Now, like I said, with the suspense and the threat of something that happens or could happen in this movie, don't get me wrong, there are some very brutal moments in this movie, and it, especially, particularly near the end, obviously this is a slow burn of a movie, and it does, require the audience to actually watch it, pay attention, and just kind of see where it goes and where it leads. And the second you're hooked, you're hooked. And there's some awesome supernatural stuff that's handled in a somewhat mature way, and even kind of like a bizarrely, like, this is a lived-in world where the One-Wish Willow apparently grants wishes and everyone's aware of it. So you have to wonder, how has no one asked for, like, world peace or something? It's very bizarre, the world Curry Baker has created, but he crafted it with such care that I want to know more. But at the same time, I'm also glad I don't know more or what could potentially happen. Like I said, it is very suspenseful, and there are some very, very darkly comedic scenes. One in particular, I won't spoil it in particular, what ends up happening, because it is pretty disgusting, but character eats something that he wasn't supposed to eat, and it leads to a moment, and both you, the audience, are also equally disgusted, but then a character says something that's delivered in a way that makes you laugh. There's also weirdly bizarre moments where Nikki's acting very strange that you can't help but kind of, it's giggle fear. It's like laughing gas, but you're afraid. So, on top of that, her frown knocks it out of the park. Obviously, that's the spotlight. And yeah, the violence in this movie is also handled, like, it's shocking. It's very brutal. One death in particular was very brutal for me, but it was handled in such a way that just, it felt shocking, and, it hit you hard when these bursts of violence eventually happen. And I love the fact that it's not, like, too over the top to where you're just like, it's just totally bleak and disturbing, but it's disturbing in a fun way. Like, it's like a roller coaster. It's like being a part of a roller coaster that leaves you in suspense. Can't help but laugh nervously at it, but you also had a fun time with it. It's very bizarre. I just had to eventually get to it. How is it the fact that 2026, we're more than halfway through 2026, and there are only 2 movies so far that I would consider masterpieces. This and Project Hail Mary. Like I said, there's more to come this year, but I am very impressed with it, and I cannot wait to see what Curry Baker releases next. And yeah, Obsession is no joke, man. I'm just here to add fuel to the fire and just really praise the fact that this movie exists, especially in this day and age. It's very nuanced, very thought-provoking, and it will be open for discussions. And there were some disturbing elements here as well, and what constitutes as like a nice guy, an incel, loving someone, obsessing over someone, haha, yes, I said the thing. And man, everything about it, knocked it out of the park. I had to discuss it. It had to eventually come. This is like one of the quickest reviews I had to do because I genuinely loved it. I loved what it, presented. I loved how simple it was, but it was executed in a way that made it more. It wasn't pretentious. It is a very smart horror movie, and I do not say that lightly because horror movies often like to be dumb fun, but every so often, a movie like Obsession comes along and it just totally knocks it out of the park and just wipes their ass with the phrase dumb fun. This is the definition of a smart, entertaining horror movie, and very nuanced, very thought-provoking, and dare I say, very bold too. But anyway, that's about it. See ya.